Okay, the classroom is syllabus-centric. The point is it's not student-centric, right? Okay? Yes, let's move on to the questions of how they're different. How are the classrooms here, how are the students' attitudes different here in Pakistan or in your schools? Okay, in the West, the students are encouraged to speak out. Maybe here they are not. Yes? Not as much. Pardon? They're not trained to speak. Yes? Let's shh. Hold on, hold on. Well, we'll have a diverse set of views, but let's, yes. Okay, they aren't trained to question authority. Yes? In A levels, they're more interested in grades than learning. Okay, the students maybe aren't trained to think as much as in perhaps the U.S. I'm going to stop here, and what just happened? What just happened here? There was a diverse set of answers, and you folks fabricated new knowledge that was not available before we began our interaction. You began to get very emotionally involved as somebody said, this is how it is, and you say, that's not my experience, and I need to make certain that you understand what my experience is. And in fact, rather than sitting passively through me delivering information as the fount of wisdom, the possessor of all knowledge, you constructed knowledge that I did not know. So the speaker is summarizing and simplifying, but my job is not to deliver. My job is to help engage you in the process of learning. The teacher and the student construct information, new knowledge together. New knowledge is fabricated by all who participate. Why is this important? Well, we're going to review some ideas. It's because jobs change more rapidly than ever before. Increased specialization is coming about. New technologies are developing all the time. We see knowledge within fields changing. The level of education is increasing. Oh boy, we've got to specialize and get our students to see more and more. But at the same time, learning has to be continuous throughout life. When you're 20, you want the big, rich job. You want to have a cushy life. You want to make lots of money. And as you get further along, you realize, I want to be passionate about what I'm doing. I want to be engaged in what I want to do. And here's me in the field. I would like to be that man who at 70 is still in the field, excited about learning with his students. I don't care about the money. What I want to be is trained to continue discovering throughout life with my students. National boundaries are disappearing. The ideas that are being discussed at this conference are on the cutting edge any place in the world for education. They are simply the ideas that are based on 20 years of information about learning in the brain. And we're now seeing how to improve learning by looking at the biochemistry of the brain in development. Our students need a world in which they are educated with a 21st century learning model. We don't need the 20th and 19th century where we train them for a skill in a career linked to a major. We need to educate them for learning how to learn in a future in which their jobs are going to be changing. In the U.S., my generation, 1 career, 3 jobs. Today's generation, 3 to 4 careers, 12 to 14 jobs before they retire. Those are the latest estimates. 3 different careers. How can I train them as a biologist by delivering content for 3 different careers? I can't. I need to train them for fabricating new knowledge in a world that is changing so rapidly that we don't even know what it will bring. So the emerging model in America for the progressive schools, and it sounds like from the discussions here at Beaconhouse, as well in Pakistan and other places, that the emerging model is one of continuous education from primary school through graduate school. Continuous lifelong learning in all fields, not just science and math, like the presence is in the US, but multidimensional cross-training. My students who traveled with me for 90 days around the world wrote. My colleague was a professor of English. My other colleague was a professor of German. Here are 3 professors who are teaching the students about science, about writing, about literature. And the students are looking at different aspects of their environments from 3 disciplines and getting 3 completely different approaches, a new understanding of the world. The focus was on them learning, not on us delivering information. Knowledge is fabricated, not received. Students are active, not passive. Teachers and students learn. If I do not learn something at this conference, then I am going home disappointed because there is so much to learn about learning. And I've already, from the first plenary, picked up some new ideas that will be important. Learning is sustained when we own it personally. It's not sustained when it's delivered. The student has to say, aha, I discovered that. It's why being a scientist is so much fun. When it's not, here's the lab, do the lab, and when you get the answer that I already know I want you to get, you got it right. That is not science. Science is when you let the students loose and you say, let's go out and see something in the world that we haven't seen before. And you need to come and tell me why you think things are the way they are. That's constructing new knowledge. So, what do I know? Well, I don't know much about you folks. I want you to tell me what you think your primary role is as a teacher, as an administrator, as someone who is just extra in the field of education, as someone who is a parent. What is your role? Is your role to provide knowledge? Is it to improve learning? Is it something in between? Because as much as I'm saying here that my job is not to deliver content, I cannot go to any university in the state of Ohio where I'm from with 80 universities and find introductory biology courses that aren't about content, aren't about delivery. Because we're all so worried if we don't cover this, our students won't get into medical school. They won't pass the graduate record exam. They won't be able to take the MCATs for medical school admission. They'll have a slightly lower score. And that's the myth of coverage, because when we engage them to think, they actually perform better. We don't have to teach to the test. They'll do better, but we don't believe that. So I want to know truly from your heart what you think. Do you think that our job is to provide knowledge? Because my colleagues will tell you, yeah, you're a nice guy and you talk about these things, but we really think our job is to provide knowledge and deliver information. When it comes right down to it, that's what we have to do. So you've got 1 minute to tell me whether you think your job is to provide knowledge or to improve learning or something in between. Talk with one another and then I'll get some answers. Okay, I'll change my answers then. Great. Okay, we're going to get an audience response as a group by doing the equivalent of a wave where everybody stands up and does this. So I'm over here and this is 100% delivery. And I'm going to go over here and this is 100% focused on learning and 0% on delivery. And so I'm going to start over here, and as I get to the percent that you think you are, then stand up. Okay, so I'm now at 0% learning, 100% providing knowledge. 10% knowledge. 20% learning. 30% learning. Stand up. 40% learning. 50% learning. 60% learning. 70% learning. 80% learning, 90% learning, 100% learning. Oh boy, thank you. This is a very progressive group. I wouldn't have gotten that. I've gone to conferences sponsored by the National Science Foundation, and we have professors in the sciences who will battle the ground for delivery of content that's important. Why are these basic learning skills needed? We need to have students who can solve things from an interdisciplinary perspective. Science will not provide the answer. As much as technology is useful, it will not provide the answers. Global warming will not be solved by scientists. It'll be solved by people who begin to realize that our greed is what's driving the problem. Our greed in the West to consume and to have all of this stuff is killing us, and it's killing the world, and it's killing the world for our children. And that is not going to be solved by science, unless you can somehow magically make it possible to get endless energy without any kind of carbon emission. That's not going to be in the foreseeable future. We need to improve understanding, in-depth understanding. We need to help develop what Adele Diamond calls the executive function, the prefrontal cortex, that part of us that is inhibited from just bursting out and saying things that are inappropriate. We need to